Hello, everybody. This is John Browning. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Building Your Life with John Browning. And Michael DeLon has the day off today. And we have a guest with us today. His name is Gary Chernow. And Gary is an independent certified franchise consultant. And he's going to talk to us today about the idea of business ownership, and maybe how not to be as scared of that as maybe you might have been before. And also to talk about that in the sense that, is it a way that you might be able to diversify your portfolio? I'm going to talk about some things that you might want to consider now versus later, that type of things. But I'm going to let Gary talk a little bit. First of all, Gary, what is the best way for someone to get in touch with you just for a casual conversation about the idea of business ownership?
Sure, John, thanks. Well, the best way, you can call or text, and my phone is 856-981-1871, or email Gary@integritybusinessoptions.com.
Right. And you've got a digital business card as well, right? Is that something that they can text something to, or is that something else?
Yeah, I can text it to them, to
Okay.
anybody. I can text it or attach it to an email so they can have access to that digital business card. Yes.
Great. Okay. All right. So you know how to get in touch with Gary. Most of you know how to get in touch with me. Very simple. The easiest way is just to text LIFE, L-I-F-E, to 21,000. And of course, you've got my website and you're listening to this podcast, which means you know me a little bit at least. And you know that I also have a book, would be happy to share that with you, called Build a Life, Not a Portfolio. And this is part of that whole theme. And it's just ideas that you might want to consider that maybe had never crossed your mind before. And Gary, talking about the idea of diversifying your overall assets, right? And it's so important as I build portfolios for individuals and I give them a comprehensive wealth management plan, to also consider not just the stocks and the bonds and the different financial products, but what is their real estate holdings look like? And that can be the house that they live in, or they may own other real estate. And also the businesses. I work a lot with small businesses, medium-sized businesses, to get their account set up, but also to kind of give them a little coaching on how they might want to diversify those businesses even. So diversifying your assets, how does that work with kind of what you do?
Sure. So people are familiar with those traditional investment vehicles like you mentioned, but it also could be possible to invest in yourself and invest in a business. And a person can use some of those funds, maybe equity in real estate that they have. It could be even the traditional, the 401k rollover programs. The government does let individuals roll over those retirement accounts without any taxes or penalty. They can roll them over into a business investment. So then they can take those funds, roll it into their new business, invest in themselves. They could even structure that investment as a loan through the business too, paying themselves back into their retirement account. Many people structure it that way. And there's also many individuals take some of those retirement accounts, do the 401k rollover, and also apply for an SBA loan. So almost creating a hybrid situation and a combination of using retirement accounts and the SBA government funding.
Right. And I've got some experience with using your 401k to invest. And what I always suggest, and people need to realize that there's reporting that needs to happen and all of that, and that becomes sort of your responsibility. But there are organizations out there for a very reasonable cost that will help you with that, so that you don't really have to worry a lot about that yourself and all the bookkeeping and reporting and that type of thing, right?
Yeah, yeah. So part of the value that I offer the candidates I work with is, as I'm showing them different franchise opportunities at the appropriate time, I can make an introduction of the individual to a funding source. And these funding sources I work with, their niche is funding franchises. That's what they do. And they work with the individuals on determining what products, what strategies could be the best course of action, whether it's an SBA loan, whether it's a 401k rollover, or the combination of both, or any of their other products. But they can work with the individuals to determine the best course of action. But yes, to answer your question, they then work with the individual to help with the structuring of those products, creating a corporation, creating the bank accounts that they need to do to roll over funds. But these companies that I work with will help with the individuals every step of the way.
Right. And I like what you said as well, is as the business begins to cash flow and make money, the whole idea is you keep that 401k bank account and an account, hopefully with Guardian Rock, open as well, to continue to fund your more liquid portion of your retirement account. So you truly do end up with a diversified portfolio like you were talking about. And keeping those funds separate and remembering to do what? Pay yourself first, which so many small businesses forget to do. And
Yeah.
I got to admit, in the early days, I was exactly like that. I didn't pay myself first. So when I'm coaching people as they go through a decision like you're talking about, I stress that continually. So
Yeah, that's good. Good for you. I was in the same boat. I've owned a franchise, my first franchise. I was not diligent in paying myself. And then you start getting behind a rock, and then other expenses are popping up, and then it becomes harder to just make that expense and start paying yourself. So you have to get in that habit day one. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. So now let's just address this great big elephant that I know is in the room, and that is fear. And we deal with this all the time,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and fear so much so that people have way too much cash sitting on the sidelines, which is actually because of inflation losing them money. And there's this fear of investing in yourself and getting out of, maybe it's getting out of corporate America, and can I do it? Will I do it? How do you adjust or how do you kind of get over that hump? What's possible? Because I always say can't, never could do anything, right? So why now? Why is now a good time, or certainly not a worse time than any other time, to get into owning your own business?
I don't know that there will ever be the perfect time and all the stars align for somebody to take that risk. There will always be something going on in the country, in the world. There will always be a pandemic or a conflict, a war, or a 9/11, or a recession, or a daughter's wedding, or a Democrat in office, a Republican in office. There will always be something going on. And I don't know if it's ever the perfect time. But it comes down to investing in yourself too, because these jobs, these corporations aren't quite as loyal as they used to be with their employees, where you have that employee for 35, 40 years, they retire. That doesn't really exist anymore. So that's part of the first step, is having that confidence in investing in yourself, where you can take control. And I have a couple candidates I'm working with now. Actually, one was with AT&T 27 years. And I don't know if I'm allowed to even mention these companies, but But anyway, she was let go, and another gentleman about 24 years, I believe, with Bank of America, and he was let go. And so now, they're exploring opportunities. So there's no way to mitigate fear 100%, but that's the benefit of a franchise, though, versus an independent business, is you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. And that's the advantage of the franchise, is that system, that structure, that success of the model is already been proven. It's already there. The franchisee needs to follow the system, and then they have all the support they need to be successful. You still have to put in your own dose of hard work. Certainly no guarantees. You still have to work hard, but that system, that structure, that blueprint, support, it's all there for you to succeed.
Right. The big difference there is, yes, you'll work harder than you may have even worked in your corporate job. It's possible, right? The big difference is you're working for you.
Yeah.
And so then that just makes for me, that makes all the difference in the world when I'm doing the work for me, for my family, because I've been at that corporate job. I worked on Wall Street for about 30 years, and hey, the paycheck was nice, right? I mean, all that was good, but bottom line, it didn't really matter how good a job I did if at the end of the day, somebody in part of the company made a mistake, had trading error, whatever. If they decided to lay me off, or whatever they call it these days to be more politically correct, if you were on that list, you were on that list. And didn't really matter if you'd done a phenomenal job for however many years. You were on the chopping block, and then that disrupts your entire life. Now, you still have that risk, right? If you own a business, something happens. But let me ask you this. Another big fear is, wow, we've had so many things happen. We've had the pandemic. We've got this war over in Europe. Are there businesses that you know of, franchises? I mean, when everybody talks about franchise, they think of the big ones like McDonald's or whatever, a big franchise, right? And those cost millions of dollars, right?
Yeah, I call it the F word. I say franchising, and they think of food right away. Yeah. And it's franchising so much more than food. But go ahead. I interrupted.
No, that's really important thing to say too, because I think you're right. Most of us think of food, and my wife and I own a franchise that wasn't about food at all. And there's a lot of them out there. And do you know some that would be sort of, I don't know, recession proof? Because, oh no, what if we go into recession, or pandemic proof, that type of thing? Are there businesses out there like that?
Absolutely. Yep. Recession proof, Amazon proof, but it's those need-based businesses versus the want-based businesses, right? So mold and remediation type businesses. That's a need-based business. If you have a pipe that breaks and your house is flooded, it has to get taken care of. Senior care, you mentioned senior care, that in-home senior care. Those patients still need to be seen. And air conditioning, HVAC companies, if your air goes out. I'm in Florida, and I think you are too. But down here, if our air goes out, depending on the time of the year, it could be pretty rough with the humidity. And I'm in southern Florida. So those air conditioning, HVAC companies are need-based business. And even automotive repair, there's more and more used cars out there now. And because it's hard to get new cars. So people are going to hold on to their cars longer. So automotive, childcare, tutoring programs, they're all need-based business. And that's what we can dig into when working with a candidate to explore options, is we can talk about some of those need-based models that are out there.
Right.
Yep.
And that, I think that's the fear issue, right, is that plays into that as well. So it's possible. It's possible for you. And if you are somebody listening to this podcast that is frustrated, or maybe you've been laid off, or you don't want to live where the company says you want to live, whatever the reason might be, it's at least possible. And maybe you haven't thought about the idea of franchising or starting your own business because of the fear. And maybe part of that fear can be mitigated by the idea that there's a proven model and there's support behind that. And maybe even in many cases, some advertising backing and that type of thing involved with the franchise opportunity. You might want to reach out to somebody like Gary and just see what the possibilities are, right? It's not like you're charging an arm and a leg for just to talk to him, right? It's free to chat with him, right?
It's right. Yeah, it's better than an arm and a leg. I don't charge at all for my services. I get paid by the brands that I represent. So the individuals that I work with will never pay me a penny to explore these possibilities, to educate and do research. And I stay with them every step of the way during that education process, that due diligence process. So you never pay me anything to just see what's possible out there.
Right. And I think as well, the reason, this is important for people to understand, I think the reason that franchisors do the franchisee model is because they want to grow their own business, right? So you always want to know how the other side gets paid, right? So what's in it for the franchisor? And they get benefits from you being a franchisee, and understanding those and making sure it's what I call a synergistic relationship rather than a parasitic relationship, right? Because they're providing some great services for you. You get to grow your business. You get to be independent. On the flip side, you're providing business to their brand as well. Am I right on that?
Yep. And they provide the great support, ongoing support. Many franchise models out there today provide all the digital marketing and social media management and all the SEO management, and they're managing that for the franchisees. And gosh, more and more franchises today even provide national call centers. So with all the digital marketing that the franchisor is doing, they are driving the leads, the calls to the call center. And the call center takes the calls. The franchisees don't necessarily have to man all those calls, but they are receiving the leads that come in from the call center. Not every franchise is set up with that model, but many are now, and many more are moving in that direction.
So that you can focus on what you do best with the franchise.
Business development, managing the relationships with your clients or staff, and grow and scale your business.
Right. Yeah. Well, Gary, this has been for me really good and insightful, and I want to make sure you get your name out there again, and exactly how's the best way to contact you if you want to talk a little bit more with Gary about diversifying your portfolio and opening up the possibilities of maybe owning your own business. How's the best way again to get in touch with you?
So, phone or text is 856-981-1871. Email is gary@integritybusinessoptions.com. And my website is that same name, integritybusinessoptions.com is my website. I represent over 500 different brands in all different industries, all different price points. Many of the brands I represent are on my website, along with a lot of other information also is on the website. So any number of ways any of those ways, they can certainly reach me. I'm happy to talk to anybody. And again, the best part is they'll never pay me a penny.
Gary, it's been great to have you on the show today. And just as a reminder for anyone listening out there that wants to get in touch with myself and Guardian Rock Wealth to learn how to build a life, not just a portfolio, text the word LIFE, L-I-F-E, to 21,000, and you'll have all of the links, including one at the bottom right-hand side that you can schedule a few minutes. Again, it's free to chat with me as well. I'm most important when you talk to me is I want to provide a little bit of value to you in the first 15, 20 minutes that we talk, and at least point you in the right direction. So we're signing off today for the Building a Life podcast. Gary, thanks so much for being with us today.
John, thank you so much. Really enjoyed it. Thank you.
All right.